Welcome to Processing Purpose, a business and lifestyle podcast committed to having honest conversations about the stuff in our lives that is often suppressed, ignored, or overlooked. We are two brothers from very different backgrounds, but with one common goal. From entrepreneurship to relationships, from hobbies to house projects, nothing is off limits as we process becoming the best version of ourselves in business and life. There we go.
Okay. We're doing it.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you. Day after Father's Day. Tell me about it. Tell me about your Father's Day. What'd you guys do? What do you guys do? Any traditional things or no?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
us either.
Breakfast maybe. You know, it's pretty traditional for us to go get.
What'd you have?
Oh my gosh, dude, we went to this spot. No joke. Okay, so we went to this spot in Spokane.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking like local here, and I thought, why don't I know about it? You're saying as if I should know about it, but okay, that makes sense.
No, we were with my parents. And they're totally going to get a shout out here for all 7 listeners that we have.
Love you guys.
People's Waffles in Spokane. The best waffles I've ever had. Ever.
And honestly, like they're like on the spectrum of great waffles, it's like, I guess maybe there's a new bar that you've experienced, but I'm
Incredible.
Like, how much better can waffles actually get?
I mean, waffles are magic, right? Who doesn't love waffles? I mean,
it's like
right out of Shrek. In the morning, I'm making waffles.
It's like fried chicken. Like, I don't know anybody that doesn't like fried chicken. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so People's Waffles. I had like this cinnamon and sugar, and it had bacon crumbles on top of the it was...
So, like, I'm guessing homemade whip. Probably like a butter whip.
No, it was like this cinnamon sugar frosting on top of...
What?
It was ridiculous.
And I'm guessing like a huge bar full of toppings.
It was amazing. Like, highly recommend People's Waffles.
People's Waffles.
Yeah, it's
Should we
downtown.
franchise that? Call them up. Be like, hey, can we open one in Wenatchee?
I guess they started as a food truck.
Those are the stories I love the best. Very much. I mean, your story with Degree 33 is very much in line with that, right?
Yeah,
that bootstrapping.
Yeah.
Start small, slowly build it out, gets bigger and bigger and better. Awesome.
Yeah, so we did breakfast with the fam, and then we just kind of hung out. We were driving back yesterday, so
not bad. 3-hour drive.
No,
not bad.
Watched a little F1 racing. I'm kind of an F1 geek, so we watched the F1 race.
I love that. It's a cool thing to be into.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a fun sport.
I mean,
and watched a little of the U.S. Open, and yeah, I mean, nothing special, but just hanging out with everybody. It was fun.
My whole thing, and I didn't get the luxury as much. Brooke did a great job of setting up a day to myself yesterday for the most part. But my whole thing is like just no responsibility.
Yeah.
Like I don't care. I honestly don't care what we do, how we do it, as long as I don't have to do it. I know that sounds really selfish and lazy, but that's all I'm really looking for.
I took the liberty yesterday a couple of times when Holly's like, hey, can you help me with this? I went,
This is my one day. And then, I know the exact look she gave you too. I know exactly. She was like, yeah, I'm going to let you get away with this. But I'll take
yeah, but I don't like you right now.
No, I've gotten a few of those too. But
What'd you do?
Yeah, so Brooke took our oldest over to camp that she grew up going to her entire life. Did you go to that camp as well?
Went.
That was more of a Reedy thing. The Reedies are our family that we married in. Both Luke and I married into.
Our wives made
and
names.
they all went to this camp over in the Spokane area. And so our oldest daughter's going this week, which I'm super excited. But of course they had to go over Father's Day weekend to drop her off, which not a big deal. You know, it's not too big a deal. We feel pretty lucky in that we get a lot of time with our kids. There's a lot of people who have to travel all the time for work and all that. And by all means, do what you have to do to support your family. But I'm grateful that I just don't. I get to see my kids a lot. I get to be around them a lot. And so I kind of feel like Father's Day is every day, to some degree. I know that's kind of cheesy, but it's true. So anyway, low-key weekend, I was with the other 3 kids on Saturday, and then yesterday had an opportunity to go fish, although I caught nothing. I just shared that with you before we got started. It was a bummer, but I had a good attitude the whole time. It was a beautiful day, a little bit weird weather, just in and out, rain, and I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure those pressure changes do something. That's my excuse anyways for being a terrible angler. I love popping in those little excuses. But nevertheless, it was just nice to get, 7-8 hours with the drive included by myself, just to process, think, not think,
Yeah.
The nothing box is amazing, right? We talked about that. Yeah. Men's brains are like a bunch of little boxes, and the nothing box is our favorite. And I got to do a lot of nothing box yesterday, which felt awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So all in all, a pretty good Father's Day. I mean, yeah. So that's kind of what we're talking about today, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Being a dad.
Yeah. Like how does being a dad meet with, the grind of trying to do life? For us, that might be entrepreneurship. For others, it might be, being an award-winning author or having a huge, career in a, professional capacity. Like fitting it all in and giving your best to all of it is not easy.
No, I don't do that. I wish I did, but we've talked about counterbalancing a lot, and giving my best effort in light of the overall capacity I have to give. Yeah. But I could never be a 10 out of 10 in any category,
Yeah, I don't think that that's necessarily a realistic expectation, is that you're going to be a 10 in all areas.
Your best effort.
Yeah, I think giving your best doesn't mean that you gave or that you had 10 to give.
Yeah.
Right?
Many times not.
Maybe a tenet of this is grace.
Yeah.
Right?
I think we need a lot of it. We're pretty self-critical when it comes to parenting. I am anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you like, rhythm or routine or philosophy as it relates to trying to balance it all?
No, you know me pretty well. I've always been a free flow guy, so
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of a totally scheduled out calendar. I know it sounds absolutely counterintuitive, but it makes me actually feel less organized. It makes me feel like
Interesting.
not less organized. That's not the word. It makes me just feel more stuck. Like this is what I have to do. More boxed in. I don't have. One thing I think I need to look at, I know I'm kind of sidestepping here a little bit, is doing similar to what you do and gapping my day and working for a few hours, taking a few hours off to work out or, make a friend phone call, whatever. Right. And then get back into the workflow of things. I guess I just know myself well enough to know going back into workflow is a little bit tougher for me.
Yeah.
Once I'm out of it, I'm out of it.
Do you think that's because, like, have you ever stepped out of it, though, knowing with the intention that you're going to step back into it? Like, look, this is a 2-hour break.
Great question.
And I'm going back versus like, I got distracted for 2 hours and there was no intention of being distracted.
Right.
And so therefore there was no structure to it.
No. So to answer your question, no. So that's something to try for sure. And maybe something that I've heard a few people do it that are high producers, and man, they love it. They love that break in the middle of the day. It just opens their day up and makes them feel like they have a little bit more control over their schedule, right? Instead of being boxed in like that. So
yeah,
need to look at that for sure. Anyway, back to talking about kids, routine, philosophies, things like that. No, outside of just the daily routine of things, I don't know if it's necessarily even conscious. You know what I mean? I think it's mostly like just what we do, right? Get up, get breakfast going, get coffee going first. That's first and foremost.
Yeah, right.
I barely function without coffee, unfortunately. And then breakfast, and then depending on if it's school or not, obviously we just got into summertime. So it's kind of a new flow a little bit, trying to figure out what the new rhythms are going to be. The good news for us anyways is we don't do sports over the summertime, and that may change, right? We may see a change as kids get older and summer programs, but I'm grateful for that. I like to have summer open it's full already, but open in terms of just out doing family activities, right? We got a lot of camp trips coming up. We got a lot of cool, fun things we're doing all year long, or all summer long, I should say. And that's nice. So in terms of routine, I guess we are routinely trying to figure out ways to spend more time as a family intentionally.
Yeah.
And we like to do that as much as possible with shared experiences, right?
Yeah.
Like camping and stuff.
You said something there that piqued a thought, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but the thought crossed my mind, like conscious versus unconscious. I think, especially as dads, that we have kind of a default mechanism of unconscious behavior. Like, this is just the routine of what we do, and we don't really give it any intentional thought. We just kind of go through the motions. And I'm not sure that that's a dad thing. I think it's just a person thing.
Sure.
Like, we just kind of all go through the motions on some level. Outside of, number one, awareness and being aware that it's happening, like, I'm just going through the motions. Do you have any triggers or anything that you effort towards to try and stay present and conscious with your kids?
The thing that popped into my head first was asking the question. This actually was suggested by a former employee of ours, Mike Herzog. Great human being, great dad. He has 4 kids himself, all adult children. And he's still, to this day, I asked him, I said, man, you just seem like such a great dad. I just love the way you parent, even as with adult kids. He's so present, so engaged with the kids all the time. And I just asked him, I said, how do you just make sure you maintain that? And he said, I always look them in the eye every time I see them. First question out of my mouth is, how are you? And I just listen. And he goes, you'll be absolutely surprised how much they're willing to open up just by asking that question alone. And so I do that even today. The other thing, I know this is a little bit more forecasting, but the other thing that really inspired me was Aaron Bryant, and he asks his kids, and we just have this is more nighttime conversation, when we're getting ready for bed. But I'll ask them, I'll say, what do you want our adult relationship to look like? Right? When you're older, what do you want to look like? What would you want to do with dad? And so start to forecast things that we want to do in the future, because ultimately I think you start efforting towards that now. You start working on activities that start building you toward that thing. And so those conversations have been really fun. I don't know, besides that, I'll have to think about it a little bit. But how about you?
Yeah, so I think I do a couple of things. The first thing is that I take my kids to school every day.
Love that.
I'm the one that takes them to school. It does 2 things. One, I get a little extra time with the kids.
Yep.
It's not usually super intentional. It's usually like they want to choose the music, and so we listen to whatever they want to listen to, and but it's just being,
right,
showing intentionality and being there. And if there's something they want to talk about, of course, we'll talk about it. But so it's getting time with the kids, but it also gives my wife Holly 30 minutes, 40 minutes in the morning to just have a clear space and a clear head and kind of get her day started without being tugged and pulled on.
It's special, actually.
Yeah.
Even that 30-minute window is special.
Yeah. So I even take my littlest that doesn't go to school. I just take all the kids.
That's awesome.
And, just take them to school. And then we always do dinner together.
Nice.
And so, I try and wrap up between 5:30 and 6:30 or whenever's dinner's ready. And we all go down and we'll have dinner together and have a conversation.
We find ourselves often cooking just for the kids, right? Like mom's, showing property, or in her life is a little bit more fragmented that way, but we find ourselves I'd say once to twice a week, we're doing sit down full family dinners.
Sure.
Outside of that, it's food on the table for the kids, keep it moving, chores to do, other things, that sort of thing. But I don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, again, a tenet is grace, right? But I think on some level, we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the cards that you've been dealt, to be cliche-ish, and so that's what you guys are navigating.
Yeah.
Right? And that's okay. A couple times a week. Great. Then what 2 days a week are we going to do and not compromise this week?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Or one day.
Yeah.
Every Sunday night. Right?
Yep.
Whatever it is.
Some sort of consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at dinner, there's usually some sort of intentional conversation. That can be as simple as, okay, kids, tell me one thing that surprised you today at school.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right? What's one thing that made you laugh today?
Talk about things they're going to remember and have fun talking about.
Yeah.
Not, what'd you learn today? That's like always the baked in question.
Yeah. And it's asking the same question in a different way.
Yeah.
Right? And so
because they learned.
So we're always trying to ask, something about that, because, hey, kids are kids. Hey, how was your day? Good.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Oh, it's good. It's like, okay, well, the quality of answer is going to be directly proportional to the quality of the question.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're asking lousy questions, you're going to get lousy answers.
Right.
So if you don't like the answers that you're getting, change your question.
Yep. And we've talked about it before, but hows and whats are the best questions to start, or start your questions with those two words, and you'll get more out of people than anything else.
Well, it's open-ended.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Whys, well, of course you wouldn't ask your son, but whys make people defensive. But what's and hows really neutralize people and make people feel like they want to give more.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Little parent hack here, if you're trying to figure out table conversation, is just use your phone and Google like 100 questions to ask my kids. And then everybody picks a number.
Love it.
And they go around, it's like, what number do you want between 1 and 100? 27. And it's like, okay, if you were a superhero, who would you be and why?
Yeah. And they love it.
And it's just, they now, even with like company will come into town, it's like, can we do questions? Can we do questions?
I love it.
And it just becomes, we don't do it every night. I'm not even sure we do that type of thing once a week, but it's often enough that it's created a bit of like, this is something that we do.
Right. We've done riddles too.
Sure.
But the hard part is it goes on forever. Meaning like
and it's relative
every
to
night.
the ages of kids that you have.
Right. Yeah. Super fun though. I got a harder question.
Sure.
What parenting trait did you pick up from, well, I don't want to make this personal. Let's just say, what parenting trait can you not control that just comes out that you want to control or have maybe more control over?
What parenting trait comes out that I wish didn't?
Like it's just in you. Yeah, like, God, I don't like that part of me comes out in those situations. I just don't like that.
I raise my voice quickly. And I'm not even sure that's a carryover trait for many.
And you and I already have
anybody.
loud voices anyway.
I am a loud talker. Like, I'm the guy in the restaurant that everybody's like turning their head and like, who is that? I'm in their conversation. They're 7 tables over.
Yeah, when you and I go out for coffee, I think all of our secrets have been exposed to this town. I think we don't. Anyway.
I did work on that. But I think because my default volume is, at 9.
Let's take it to 10.5.
Turn down the main, Skid Row. But I think I get loud quickly. And my kids call it out. Stop yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not yelling. This is like you're yelling. I'm like, I will show you yelling.
But at the same time, like, I feel like when you raise your voice, there's a sense of authoritarianism, right? Like you're taking authority of the situation. If you're condescending about it, that's a whole different set of, oh man, we got to change that. But if you're just raising your voice, that's...
I effort to communicate calmly. Like I have to consciously like take a deep breath and lower my tone and slow my pace.
Yep.
So that I can be intentional and with love. And then they don't listen after the first time I do that or the second time that I do that. And then I'm like, listen!
I think that's probably every parent's going to nod their head, but I think the biggest frustration in parenting alone is repeating yourself.
Yeah.
I just don't I don't need to say this the 4th time, right? Or, hey, can I have a piece of candy? No, you can't have a piece of candy right now. 3 seconds later, hey, do you mind if I have that cupcake over there? No, you can't have that cupcake. Hey, do you mind if it's like just every little, know, and you're like, whoa, but maybe I'm not doing a good job explaining too. I don't know.
Maybe not.
It's just part of it.
I think it's part of it.
Yeah.
But because I've never met a kid that doesn't like ask over and over and over. Right.
I'm getting 4 versions of myself as a kid. I laugh all the time because I'm like, this is me. I was that kid.
Yeah.
That was really annoying.
Yeah.
And then I eventually got what I wanted.
I think they reflect us on some level.
Yeah.
I think that's just a part of its, nature, and the other part's obviously nurture, but I think they are little us's on some level.
Well, my toxic trait is definitely like I can't stop it, man. It's really hard, but when my kids get sick, I get mad.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not, and that was my
like it's their fault.
No, it's an inconvenience.
Oh,
and
it
that's
is an inconvenience.
It is, but man, nothing worse than when you're not feeling good and someone makes you feel like an inconvenience. So I got to change that immediately. And I was brought up in that.
I think I've done that to you before.
Well, I was brought up in that scenario. I was.
Yeah.
And to my mom's, defense, she was brought up in that scenario where if she got sick, she was in the way, right? We got things to do. You're slowing us down, kind of a thing. And so, yeah, I remember as a kid, man, you had a bad head cold. It was, you got it tossed a nice cold rag, and that was about it.
Right.
Here, put this on your head. We'll see you in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Not that ice cold, but nevertheless, that's my response. My natural response is now I'm irritated. Now I have to rethink my day. Now we have to do this and that. Now I can't get work done, whatever.
Yeah. That harkens back to a previous episode of being inconvenienced, or what happens when you get derailed.
How do you deal with the inconvenience or the disruptions of life?
Yeah.
Yep. And you just have to deal with it. When health is on the line, no matter what it is, that takes precedent over anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, health is number one. And it is, health and life. I took the, wilderness first aid course that you took last year. And I mean, it can be in a heartbeat, in a second. Your health, anything else, your motor skills, whatever else could be gone, could be taken from you in a heartbeat. And we kind of work through some of those scenarios. So, yeah, I mean, you just have to prioritize.
What is, this is broad. I'm going to try and do my best to laser focus it a little bit, but what do you think the role that modeling takes as a dad, as it relates to, how your kids watch you interact with X? That could be your kids watching you grow a company, how you love your wife. Like, how do you think about it? Is that conscious or unconscious for you on like the way you present yourself to them?
Sometimes, not always. I'd say 80-20, 20% I'm conscious of it, 80% I'm not. I'm very conscious of it with the way I pursue Brooke, especially in front of the kids. I'm very demonstrative, and I do that on purpose. I want them to see physically how much I love their mom, and I want them to see that it's totally okay to display that, and showing people how much you love your spouse and your soulmate or whoever, whatever. I think it's important.
What about the other side of that? The fighting, the disagreements. Do you shelter them from that, or you show them that too?
If it's a in the moment situation, we certainly don't try to hide anything, but we just don't fight that often. Like our fights are more or less like annoyances.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. That could change. We could find ourselves in a different situation for whatever reason. But as of now, we just don't do that a whole lot. We talked about that the other night. Remember over at, our in-laws, she processes big time.
Yeah.
She has to process. And so I think it's
internal versus external processing.
Yeah. And I feel like that one always wins, right? The person that has to process always beats the person that wants to process in the moment, because it just doesn't go well, right? If it has to happen right there, things are said that shouldn't be said, yada, yada. So in a way, I think it's really good for my son and our daughters to see that, hey, we can take a moment and cool off and come back and talk about this later. They don't get to see the resolve of that very often. Yeah. So there's, I guess, the downside of that. And then the other part of that is they don't get to see the verbal processor, ever have that opportunity. So if they may be sitting there feeling like me going, why aren't they working this out? Like maybe there's something different going on or whatever. So a lot of speculation there, but I don't intentionally try to shelter them from anything.
Yeah.
Both good and bad.
Yeah. I think for us, I guess us as the arguing goes. I mean, it just happened yesterday, driving home in the car.
Yeah.
It was it was Father's Day. I drive everywhere. That's just kind of what we do.
If you're a family, you're driving.
I'm driving. And Holly offered to drive yesterday because I wanted to watch the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And so I pulled out my phone, put my earbuds in, and was watching the U.S. Open. Well, consequently, it tunes out the rest of the car. Like, I didn't hear anything that was really going on. I heard some stuff, but it became obvious that was more and more annoying how disconnected I was to what was going on in the car, because Holly was trying to drive and then the kids were having issues. The iPad wouldn't work, or I'm feeling sick to my stomach, or whatever it might be, and we got on each other's case. It just and it kind of came out, and Holly and I started kind of bickering at each other, and Van, my oldest, who's 10, tried to interrupt, be like, okay, guys, enough. That's enough. And then Nora started crying. And this was not a yelling. This was not angry. This was just like
little jab.
Sharp conversation. Like, not gracious with each other by any means, but just like, that type of thing.
It just felt like,
yeah.
Ugh.
And Nora was like, she's like, you guys scared me. And so we had a conversation about that. And I was like, why did that scare you? And she goes, well, because I'm, you guys fighting, and I was afraid you guys were going to get a divorce.
Whoa.
And I was like,
the big D out of nowhere.
Like, interesting.
Where'd she even hear that?
Well, I'm sure from school and other kids,
sure.
Who, unfortunately have had parents that separated, and I'm sure they were talking on some level about how they were always fighting, and, fighting probably connects to divorce in a child's mind.
Sure.
And it just became real obvious to us yesterday that healthy disagreement needs to be modeled. And the resolution of it. Because otherwise they're left to wonder. And if they don't see it, when they do see it, their world, it's jarring.
Yeah.
And it was like, not that we've ever, like you, we've never tried to hide it, but we also, don't flaunt it. Right. It's not like we're going to argue in front of them. That's not what I mean. But it just became clear, like, this is not something that they see very often. And we just need to work through it and show them what resolution between two best friends who disagree look like.
That really is something, I'm sure your family, because you come from a functional family as well, but you guys came from really healthy relationship backgrounds.
I never saw my parents fight, though. Not that I remember.
Yeah, but I feel like it's because maybe they do fight. I'm sure they have disagreements, but I also feel like they're pretty respectful people, though.
Yeah.
I don't see either one of them being emotionally irrational.
Yeah.
I don't. They're very grounded emotionally and mentally, for that matter. And again, I'm sure they'd probably laugh listening to this, going, "We've had plenty of disagreements.
Sure.
Are you kidding me?"
Sure.
But your parents have something special for sure. They're definitely meant to be together.
Yeah, my mom's a saint.
Hey, your dad.
Love you, Dad, but Mom's a saint, and you know it.
She is. Gail is a saint, no doubt about it. Let me ask you this question: How often do you get asked the question, "Daddy, can you play with me?"
Well, I mean, I think it just happened when we were setting up for the podcast. Actually, it was just before you got here, and they're like, "Hey, will you play with us?" And I was like, "Actually, I got to get set up. Uncle Gavin's coming over, and I need you guys just play on your own," because Holly took Van to swim practice this morning. And that's a challenge. my creative play muscle hasn't been exercised, and that's after 10 years now of little kids. It still feels like it's effort.
Yes.
To get down on the floor and be creative.
Yeah. And I really am jealous of the dad. And we'll get there. There's moments where I know for a fact you do as well, but we'll get down and, lay there, sit there, and it feels great just to be eye to eye with them. But I'd say the majority of the time I've got other things to do, or I find other things to do, or whatever else, right? And that's probably my bigger conviction right now is when I'm asked the question, Daddy, can you play with me? If I don't actually have a really important, like doing laundry and doing all that, okay, they're not really important, right? Looking back, I'm not going to wish I folded another basket of laundry. Yeah. I'm going to wish I spent more time down on the floor with my kid. And so that's my bigger conviction right now is flipping that percentage and going, the majority of the time I say yes.
Yeah.
And I do actually, I was reading this, you may have seen it somewhere. I think it was on Facebook or something, but there was this narrative where a young boy asks his dad how much money he makes. Have you heard this?
I don't know. It's not
pretty cool.
Familiar.
Pretty cool little just life lesson. But so a little boy asked his dad, how much money do you make an hour? And he said, son, that's extremely rude. Do not ask me about money. That's none of your business. And he said, Dad, I just want to know how much money you make per hour. That's all. And he said, all right, if you must know, I make $100 per hour. Right. And so then he said, you know what, though, why don't you need to go to your room and go play, right? And really think about what you're asking me here. You're really not behaving very well. So he goes into his room. His dad's sitting there at the kitchen stewing over this question, just like, where does he get the gall to ask me such a question? And then he comes up to him and he says, hey, Daddy, can I have $50? And he said, boy, if you don't get back in your room right now, I'm going to grab a spoon and you're going to feel my wrath. So he's really mad at this point. And so he goes back to the kitchen, sitting in the chair. And then he starts to feel a little bit guilty and feeling like, man, maybe it was a little too hard on him, maybe he needs the $50 for something or, whatever. So he goes back into his room, sits down on his bed and pulls out $50. He says, son, I'm really sorry. I've just had a hard week. It's been a busy week at work. Here's the $50 you wanted. And he goes, oh my God, thank you so much, Daddy. And pulls out another $50 crumpled up bills underneath his pillow. And his dad, even more frustrated, is like, well, why are you asking me for money if you already have money, son? And he said, Daddy, I have exactly $100. Can I buy an hour of your time? Boom. Man, when I read that, it just absolutely hit me in the gut. And I know I could see you knew where it was going, but man, what a great example of, man, like that's all our kids want.
Yeah.
That's all they want. Sure, they want you to be kind and have fun in the process as you're with them, but ultimately they just want your time. They want you to be present.
This is an interesting exercise, and I thought I kind of rolled my eyes when it was proposed, but there was a movie that came out in the last couple of years on Netflix called Yes Day. And it's a cute little movie, about a family who has an annual Yes Day where all the parents can do is say yes. And there's parameters around it.
Right.
But
it's got to be safe.
Yeah. But my kids saw this movie and, of course, was like, when can we do a Yes Day? And Holly and I kind of both rolled our eyes. It's like, oh, great. So we scheduled it. This was last summer. We scheduled it.
Okay. I'm excited to see how it went.
And I think it was more instructional for Holly and I than it was for the kids. It felt amazing to be able to say, to be forced to say yes to every request.
Like, what was it?
What was what were they requesting?
What were requested? Yeah.
Well, we put a few parameters. There's nothing that you can request for the we Okay. So it's like, can we get a dog tomorrow? Like you can't do anything for the future. It has to be for the moment. We gave them a budget. Like you can't say, can we fly to Disneyland today? Right. So there's a budget on what they can request. And so they wanted to go to the water park. And so, yes, Let's go to the water park. I mean,
That's
that's an
easy.
easy
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
But then when you're at the water park, can we go get chicken strips?
Yeah, they're pretty good,
Yes.
actually, at the water park.
Yes. Can we go down this slide? Yes. Can we stay till the park closes? Yes. And we're
Can I go to your next yes day?
Yes. And even all the way down to like we're walking out of the park, right? The park's, within about 30 minutes of closing, everybody's baked.
Yeah.
We're walking out of the park. And the kids are like, oh, we want to go down this slide one more time. The one that we're walking by when we go out. And you got all the bags. Everybody's in motion.
And all you want to say is
And
no.
the default is, nope, we're headed out. And to just stop and say, yep, I'll wait right here. Holly and I, as we debriefed that day, and then we told them the next day, it was like, we had an amazing time saying yes. And it highlighted and underlined and bolded and italicized how often we say no.
Oh, man. And they have to deal with it on the other end.
And when you say no, they're dealing with it, right? And
Yeah.
so it was freedom, and you're not going to let them do anything dangerous.
Yeah.
But to say yes to everything, if you have never done it, I know it sounds a little intimidating to have to say yes to everything. Put some parameters around it so that you can feel like you have some control over it, but then just say yes all day long to everything. And we will do it every single year.
It's awesome. I love it, and it's inspiring me too. Have you ever heard of what do they call it? Something charades. Can't remember it. I'll figure it out. But what it is the Hunter family.
Okay.
What they used to do is very similar, but they would take a family trip, and they would pick a distance, a direction, and an activity, and there was something else. And they would draw from a hat. So all of them would add for each subject and draw from a hat. Boom, 80 miles. Boom, southeast or whatever. And they go to a map, boom, and hit it and go, that's where we're going.
Yeah,
and here's the activity. This is what we're doing there. And they all had to, be relevant to one
Right.
another. But I thought that would be really fun as a family too.
Sure.
Just spontaneity.
Yeah.
Do something like that too. Be kind of cool.
All of it is coming back to kind of the conscious or unconscious. It's efforting to do things intentionally,
Yeah.
to do things consciously.
Yeah.
And I think whether you are arguing with your spouse, or whether you're driving them to school, or whether you're getting down on the floor and playing with them, trying to be there in that moment for that moment, you're not getting that moment back.
No.
I think that's probably one of the best things that we can do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think it would be remiss if we didn't talk about Family Lines a little bit.
Sure.
Being a dad and
Yeah.
being a part of that organization for the last handful of years. I think you've been a part of it for 5 or 6.
Yeah, I'd
Maybe.
have to actually go back and look at a calendar, but yeah, it's been a
Something
bit.
like right when you got here, I think you got plugged in pretty
Pretty soon.
quickly.
Mhm.
And I've been a part of it for a few years, and obviously it's really important to us. But do you want to talk about what Family Lines is a little bit? I think we've mentioned it before, but I think just a little snapshot of what it's all about would be good.
Yeah, I mean, Family Lines is all about restoring fatherhood for the sake of the family line.
Yep.
Is really what it comes down to. And that is restoring absence in fatherhood. So absence really falls into 3 categories as we define it: spiritual, emotional, and physical.
So you're saying we deal with this a lot. We see this probably more often than not, but we're talking about dads who aren't necessarily physically gone, but
No.
emotionally and mentally checked out
Yeah.
and just not engaged with the family for one reason or another. So
Yeah. I mean, certainly physical absence is huge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're, from broken families with fathers incarcerated, to, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
is huge. But I'm not sure it's fair to say as important, but just it's got to be real close, is
Yeah.
a father who's even there but unconscious.
And we're talking about father figures. We talk about that a lot. So this could be a brother who was like a father, could be a stepdad, could be a grandfather who stepped in as a father figure for
Yeah,
anybody.
we call them dadvocates.
Yeah, dadvocate. So anyone that has the role of a father in someone's life.
Yeah, so we're part of this organization called Family Lines, who efforts to bring fathers and their kids back together. We do that through expeditions. Is kind of where it all started.
Yep. Luke and I have been on one. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see it,
Yeah, I
but
think one of the cameras can.
yep, that's a photo of Luke and
Yep.
his dad with the steelhead on the Grand Ronde.
Yeah, yeah, magic trip. And we went. You went with you and Nick, your dad.
I want to do it just us. You know, like Family
go.
Lines, I love you, but it'd be fun just to shovel down that river together. But
Yeah, so the expeditions, they're typically 5 days, which is a big commitment for people. But to really have movement when there's been separation, it takes 2 to 3 days to really settle into the walls coming down and having real conversation and really being able to be present and not guarded and defensive.
yeah,
And so that's why it's extended like that. But it started with expeditions, and has transitioned. We still do expeditions.
Yep.
It's still kind of the peak experience that you can have is jumping on one of these, typically fishing expeditions here in the Pacific Northwest or even Alaska. We do them up in Alaska as well. And
that'd be a fun one to go on.
that will be a fun one to go on. We're definitely going to do that one. And it has evolved into the Mending Lines video series, where they have taken these expeditions and videoed the process from the showing up and the day one and the uncomfortableness and the awkwardness to day 3 and the walls start coming down to day 4 and the tears and
Words of life.
yeah, it's and so what they've done with these Mending Lines video series is create kind of thematic processes of watching dads and their kids
And the production
build
quality is
better,
up there.
strong lines. The
Yeah.
production quality and the storytelling is remarkable.
I mean, top notch. It really is. It's world class.
Yeah.
It's really good stuff.
Yeah, so we both sit on the board. Gavin chairs the board.
We've done some volunteer instruction as well.
Yeah, we both guide periodically. Less as our families and businesses have gotten busier, but
Yep.
we have both guided in the past for them, and we'll do so again in the future.
Oh, for sure.
Getting out there and helping people get into fish is always fun. And
I was
ask
actually
intentional
hoping to-
conversations.
On Wednesday. But Brooke and I are going to be out of town for our
Yeah.
anniversary. And like you tried to schedule a Stehekin trip with me last year on your anniversary, I almost did the same this year. But nevertheless, Family Lines is an incredible organization. Check them out at familylines.org. You find out a lot more information there. But just, facilitated and managed by three guys and now Julie Hagedorn, John's wife. Incredible individuals who are really pushing the ball forward and doing big things and trying to make more of an impact. But we're at a lack of capacity right now with bandwidth in general. We can only give so much. And so if you have the spirit to give and you're interested in the program or, and I'm not even, look, treasure is awesome, right? Like financial gifts are amazing, but even your time and talent.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to give your fly fishing skills to Family Lines in a way that can help, grow the nonprofit in a really healthy way, we want you. We want you to be
Absolutely.
involved. Yeah.
And at the same token too, like if you're yearning for a relationship with your father, your grandfather that you didn't have, or you're the father or grandfather and going, man, you know what? I've blown it.
Yep.
And I could have done some things different. It's sorry, we yesterday went to Medical Lake,
Yep.
and Medical Lake is a spot just outside of Spokane. There is a triathlon held there in Medical Lake, and
which we've participated in.
Yeah, which we've participated in. And 7 years ago yesterday, Holly, my wife, Brooke, your wife, their dad died in the triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
And this was at the lake, and there's a memorial there. There's this incredible marble bench that's there, and on the back of it is lessons from our Father. And one of them is, it's never too late to do what needs to be done. And if you're wishing that you had a different relationship with your father, with your son, it's never too late.
No, that's the biggest lie that John shared during the fundraiser was, it's too late. I can't fix this. It's wrong.
Yeah.
God can fix anything.
Yeah. It's never too late. So just take a step.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a step. And even if you can't afford it, Family Lines provides scholarships. Like, money is not going to be the issue for you participating and putting yourself in a position to restore what has been lost and broken.
Yeah.
Just take a step.
And, the truth is, sometimes, these relationships are distant because I shared during the fundraiser as well that I just thought I had it all figured out.
Yeah.
And I distanced myself from my dad because, and to share another lie is my son doesn't want to hear anything I have to say. He doesn't care about what I have to say. That's a lie too. And I share my experience because I may have postured that way, but as I became a parent myself, as I became a dad, I realized, oh my gosh, I need my dad more today than I did when I was a kid, right? His wisdom, his advocacy, checking in to make sure that I'm not going crazy, those sorts of things of like, hey son, this is normal. It's just so valuable to have that relationship healthy, vibrant, intact today. And, even on just a baseline, my son seeing what a healthy adult relationship with my dad looks like is going to set up and create framework for our relationship in the future. Multi-generational presence is so important, and I think more relevant today than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah, we both had the opportunity to go out on one of those expeditions together, and, I won't speak for you, although I know I can, but for me and my dad, it forever changed.
Oh yeah.
What I would have already called a healthy relationship. We still had some big things that hadn't been said, even in a healthy relationship.
And I feel like they were on that trip. There were some really powerful things said by your dad that I felt like I started bawling, dude, because I was like, oh my gosh, I know how powerful that was right there.
Yeah. I mean, it forever changed the trajectory of my dad and my relationship. And I'm sure on some level, my dad and my kids' relationship. Like,
for sure.
Because those things relate. So highly, highly recommend, whether that's, gifting or participation, to be involved with Family Lines. It's the real deal.
And I know I've shared this in a previous episode somewhere at some point, but your dad's vulnerability on that trip for me is what opened me up, because
I think it opened everybody up.
Yeah. I mean, and this was the first night he started talking about his childhood, which you have to hear from him. I'm not even going to whisper at the power of God's work in his life. I mean, it's unbelievable. But that vulnerability and him opening up really opened the floodgates for me. I mean, it gave me permission. And so I share that because all of you tough guys out there that feel like you're going to be perceived as weak or less than, or just simply exposing a part of you that nobody's known before, or, and in fear that they're going to judge you for it. I'm just here to tell you it does quite the opposite, actually.
Yeah.
It gives everybody else in the group permission to be vulnerable too. And there in lies some of the most powerful conversations you'll ever have with anyone ever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So good. We're at 49 minutes, believe it or not.
We thought we were like, well, we might get 30 minutes in. Oh, I just love talking to you. It's just so fun. And hopefully, again, I hope that, hope you guys take a few nuggets away. I got a finishing thought, but what about you?
I do too. So my finishing thought here was I'd like each of us to name one thing that we learned from our dads that we are efforting to apply forward with our kids. And I can go first if you want a second to think about it, because I've been sitting here ruminating on it.
Now, and I know I'm probably getting too specific, but are we sharing a kind of a character trait of our fathers, or are we sharing like an intentional thing that was taught or shared or whatever? Doesn't matter.
I think it just is what are you carrying forward that you valued that you received?
You know, I know it sounds too simple, but his kindness. I mean, my dad is one of the most kind individuals. He's like, it's almost like painful. You're like, you're so kind. You're so nice.
Almost too kind.
Yeah, he's almost too kind. You're like, come on, man. You know? But I love that about him.
The rest of us look bad.
But, you know, it's just like, yeah, when you, and this is both my parents are in this vein, but like to grow up around a father that I never once heard speak badly about anyone. I mean, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And he just has, he just wants nothing but great things for everyone.
Yeah.
He really does. And so I want that forever to be a part of my ethos for sure.
I love that.
Yeah. How about you?
For me, it's my dad's intentionality to pursue growth. I always watched my dad effort to growth. That could be...
That's a big part of your ethos.
Yeah, it could be reading a book that is personal development or, leadership or people skills or whatever. It could be listening to an audio, what would have been audio tapes back in the day and now podcasts, right?
Yep,
But efforting, going to seminars. Like there was always a conscious daily effort of leveling up. And that is awesome. Something that I hold so dear and in high regard because it's something that we're never going to create a company or a family that's greater than ourselves. And awesome. So leveling up.
Yeah, I've heard it once before that it's really hard to judge others when you focus all your time on improving yourself. It's like, yeah, that's right.
Sure.
My finishing thought is something I learned from Mr. Rogers.
I love
it. He has one of the most incredible stories and life commitments I've ever seen or heard. But anyway, something that I do almost every day with my kids is I don't just say I love you, I say I love you just the way you are. And he was actually in front of they tried to shut down PBS, or his show was on the fritz. He had to go to court and fight for it basically. And he went and spoke in front of senators and all that. And he shared that. He said, I truly believe a child cannot grow if they are not looked in the eyes and told by an adult or someone they respect and love and look up to that they love them just the way they are.
Yeah.
And it's really incredible that I didn't prompt my children at all, but they say it back to me and they say it to one another, which is really, I think is really powerful.
I'm not trying to change you.
Yep. I love you just the way you are. And you see them glow. I mean, you see when that's said and they say it back to you, you just see this relief.
Yeah.
Like they don't have to pretend. They don't have to try to impress you. They don't have to, they get to just be them.
I love that.
And nothing more refreshing in the world than just getting to be you.
Yeah. The other thing that I add, I love that. Love that. And I think the other thing that I have to consciously effort forward with is reminding them that I'm proud of them.
Yeah. Yep.
That they're perform, because they perform whether we want them to or not.
Yeah.
That their performance is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It's awesome. Cool.
Good stuff.
Okay. It's a wrap.
Love you, brother.
See you guys next time. Love
Bye.
you. Thank you for tuning in to Processing Purpose. We hope you grabbed a few golden nuggets to take one step forward in your journey of life and business. Please remember to like and subscribe our channel if you'd like to get more content to help you build and grow everything around you. Make today your best day. Today is day one.